Hello and welcome to the next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. So, Graham, we've got a fantastic returning guest today. And he's brought his better half with him as well. So we've got two interview guests. Do you remember the man from the Caribbean with that fantastic voice?
I do. Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome Engel and Amanda. Today we're going to talk about books. So what's changed in your life that you're actually producing books now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's the expansion of what we were doing all of the while. And it's us really looking backwards, as we've had so many people do on the podcast. We've had so many people look back asking, what was your earliest childhood memory? We've asked the question of what was your favorite song when you were 12 years old? And it had us actually doing that, looking back. The podcast, as you guys can connect with, is such of a great tool in growing yourself. And I believed getting Amanda on board with her skill set to bring to the table what's necessary for the person who's willing to read in this TikTok age, right? Was necessary to really help filter my mess, right? To create a message. And in so doing, we've been able to not just create a book, which is a written thing, but something that's beautiful to look at. It's on the line of comics, but not a comic book. And we're really touching on some fundamentals of personal development.
So what's the book called?
Let's go with that. So there are going to be 12 books. I attempt to simplify this, right? Amanda nudges me when I start listing all of the ways this thing is connected. So there are 12 books. And there are 3 blocks. The first block is...
Who am I?
The second block is...
Why am I here?
And the third block is...
Do I matter?
So these 3 blocks that I think are important in anyone's conversation in life, each have 4 books. Yeah. And each book has one word that represents it. So the first 4 books, identity, personality, self-esteem, and affirmations. Those are the first fundamental block of who am I, who you are, and that builds the conversation where we're using our story. When I was an 18-year-old young man, and Amanda just a bit older than me, 1 year older than me, and it's a Caribbean dive into what isn't always shared in stories. Like, I've grown up reading stories of North Americans all my life, but this is an example of an Englishman as well, right? But this is an example of us sharing from that Caribbean perspective, our experiences in what was a great relationship and then a not so great relationship.
Which part are we in now? I mean, great or not so great? I mean, if you look at Amanda, it's like not so great. Get out. I've had enough. But so
the first book to answer your question, Kevin, is Understanding Who You Are. Yeah, and it's the conversation of a Caribbean couple's journey to self-discovery.
Is it within the book, Amanda? Within the book, is it almost like a workbook?
Well, this part of the book isn't, because we have a journal that accompanies the book. So in this book, there are 4 subjects that we address in our story, and that is choices, consequences, results, and intentions. And the story is mapped around that. So once you go through the book as a reader, there are questions to follow in the journal to do your own piece of self-reflection.
Right. I see. Oh, that's a really good idea. And okay, so basically I get hooked into book 1 and I'm learning more about who I am. I love that. I think it's absolutely the right place to start. Where else would you start? So basically, so who am I? I am. You've split it up into 4 bits. Just remind us again, so we're catching up, because you know it inside out. But Kevin, he's a bit slow. So what can I say? So he's a lot faster than me. It's just that. So you've split it into 4 parts. Who am I?
It's actually 3 parts.
3 parts.
Yeah. So Kevin really seems to be faster than you.
Yeah, I got that it was 3 parts, Graham. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Oh no,
Yeah.
I can't remember what the 3 parts are. Engel's got to say those again.
well, go on then. It's
Yeah.
I think Amanda's voice helps people to resonate more with what it is. So it's who am I?
yeah.
Do I matter? And
Who am
why?
I? And
Why am I here?
why am I here? Okay. So who am I? And you then the book takes you back to the point when you were both defining who you are, because you're different people, aren't you? You met at some stage. You weren't forged by each other.
Yeah, our relationship. I mean, the first time I saw Amanda, I knew she was the person I wanted to be with. Like, I saw the fancy halo around her head, and I knew.
Still got it. It's still got it. It's there. Yeah. We'll Photoshop it on.
But there was this young lady, spoiler alert for those who are about to read the book. But there was this young lady that I always said, if I had the opportunity to be in a relationship with her, it doesn't matter who I am with, that I would leave that person to be with this young woman. Yeah. And at that point, Amanda's graduation, Amanda was doing A-levels when I was repeating at her school. So I was visiting her school at the time when I met her. And she was graduating for A's. I was graduating for what is considered CXC O-levels here in Trinidad. And, she was a bit older than me. But I eventually won her heart. But then this young lady made me the offer that I would, carry her to her graduation ball, which meant I would have to go to 2 graduation balls, which would have been Amanda's, the first, and then hers, the second night. And that is where things really started falling apart in my life for a time.
I'm sorry, you lose me a little bit. You've got the opportunity of going to 2 balls to celebrate success, and things fall apart for you. I mean, are you a Newcastle United fan? I can understand it if you were.
Well, I think the faithfulness of me being Amanda's boyfriend, right, and then breaking her heart by going to another ball with another young lady.
Oh, right. I missed that bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Taking the salt and rubbing it into the open wounds, Graham. I really appreciate it.
I understand.
Amanda, you forgave him for doing that?
I did, but it took some time. And I think that's the process we both work through in our different ways. And it's what we're addressing in these books, and the power of choices from that early age. And we are looking at it with a hindsight view. Yeah. However, our stories, we do hope that, some young, a teenager could pick up the book and learn in such a way that going forward, their choices are really guided by the core of who they are, and just owning who you are, sticking to your beliefs, and, just not compromising with certain things.
Do you think the choices that you make as teenagers are in any way could you shape them by, imagine that we've got some teenagers on the Zoom call as well. Do you think anything that any of us would say would shape their behaviors, or are they much more likely to fault themselves because it's what they do at that age?
Yeah, I think you're very correct. It's what they do. However, understanding that the second chapter of the book contains the word consequences. You fall if you're totally correct. The concept of simply understanding that every choice I make is going to have a consequence.
Yeah.
Understanding that consequence isn't a negatively charged word. It's really neutral. So for us, being here today, the consequence of this conversation is getting to be with you and Kevin, right?
Yeah.
If we could really get that into the psyche of individuals, teenagers, children, that, every choice I make has a consequence, then we believe that this first step would have been one that was gentle. It was not done in a way that created pain or trauma, but that the individual understands, hey, okay, I'm making this choice, it has a consequence, and then we can go deeper. So everything has been done very strategically, because I've realized from conversations that, you want to do in 12 minutes what takes 12 years. And it's very important for us, despite the fact that our heart is that, hey, if we can save you in 12 minutes what you would have to experience in 12 years, then we want to do that. However, each person has their choice.
Yeah. So choice, consequence,
results.
You're here. And you're still and you're color coordinated. I love that. And anyway, we'll put this out on YouTube eventually when I get around to it. And basically, people will be able to see, and there'll be snippets on our website pretty much as we launch this, and they'll be able to see what wonderful clothes you're both wearing. Did you have to have them professionally designed that way, or is it just a Mr. and Mrs. store that you went to?
Well, this is all Amanda. So she comes up with the design, and then she has her tailor put this together, and then just put it on and get good comments like these.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I really like that. I really do like that. It's one of those things that my wife and I went to the football last night, and she had a football shirt and I had a football shirt on. But if it had looked like that, we'd have been outstanding. Even more outstanding. So, but I just
see these two going along to the bookshops, wherever the book's being launched, in the matching outfits, doing the book signing.
Yeah, stunning. It's stunning. I'll be very surprised, genuinely surprised, if you don't get orders for those clothes.
Yeah, it's
on the back.
You are the marketing guy. So you'll definitely know that. You are also, and have been, both of you have been married quite a bit. So I guess that, and again, this speaks to the understanding of influence in terms of intentionality. So it's choices, consequences, results, and intentions. What I've realized, Graham, your intention really is the charge of what really puts the compass on your choice, isn't it? So by you being intentional in being married, guess what? The result is you've been married for almost 40. Is it 40 years? Who is 37 and who is 40? Kevin is almost 40 and you're less.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just did 40.
Kevin did
85. So whatever that is, it's 38, isn't it? So yeah, 38 years. But I don't count that. That's when we got married. Wow. I count when we met.
Yeah.
And that's 40 odd now. But so yeah. So that's she's the longest girlfriend yet. So, you should look at it that way. But no, seriously, it's a long time. And Kevin's obviously just had his 40th, which we're both very proud of him for that. So anyway, this idea of intentions, Engel, just try and unravel that a little bit, because you've got just run it through again, because I'm a bit slow when it comes to that, and a lot of our listeners, I want them to get the essence of what you're talking about here, because it's really important, especially as it's the first of 12 books.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll let Amanda go for intentions.
Okay.
So I like always, just seeing the end in mind. Like whatever you approach, whatever it is you're going to do, like just visualizing the end. And the end is the intention. It's like, what do I want to achieve? So when I think of that, that whole, all right, then what do I want to achieve? What are the steps that I need to put in place? And it starts from the choices. Do I choose to do this or do I choose to do the other? And going forward. So eventually, probably 9 out of 10 times the intentions will be what it is you set out to. So it's at the starting point, but with the end in mind.
Okay. Now, hang on a second. We're talking about the fourth bit here of the first book, right? 12 books, 3 subjects. The last subject is, why am I here? Don't you have to answer the why am I here in order to get back to the intentions?
That's very good. Yeah, you're very correct. And the why I'm here, it really speaks to affirming what you would have believed as a young person. So, like, for example, that's built on 4 blocks, right? Which are self-assessment, come on, the last one.
Habits, consistency, self-assessment, and memories.
So those really are there we were playing on the concept of, all right, let me just switch back a bit. So in coaching, when someone says why, or even on a podcast, it's usually one of the questions that people suggest are more of a statement. Like if I say, Kevin, why are you wearing those black glasses? Then it feels as though I'm basically saying you should have worn a different color of glasses, right? The concept of habits and consistency and self-assessment and memories, we really drum in to seeing the evidence of what has been to align with the truth of who you are and do you matter. So you are correct. It's us giving the person who is reading the book the evidence strategically that what they or who they believe they are and do they matter is actually valid.
Okay.
This is really deep stuff. I mean,
it is very deep stuff, Graham.
Yeah, I am struggling to keep up because it makes your mind race on each question. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate the depth of your thinking to have got to this point, and the fact that a lot of it was probably grounded upon the fact that you've done goodness knows how many podcasts, but you've talked to so many people and listened to people and shared stories with them, and all of those things have been synthesized into these 12 books, if you like, and books, and I just wonder whether or not, if you had to wrap, if we're at the end of the 12th book, and you've done it, at that moment you're looking back at those books. What do you think you'll have achieved at that point?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for me, the thing I would have achieved is what I set out to do to the beginning, which was important as well, right? Our vision is that we give hope, and then we broke hope into our mission, which is helping others pursue excellence.
Yeah,
and that really begins by doing it for yourself. You know, we constantly tell people that we don't sell what we haven't bought. And we've literally applied these principles to our life. And then we decided to share, okay, this actually worked for us. It is possible that it could work for you. So I think getting to the end helps really clarify for us what we're teaching. And, you know, like, it's such a great question. Like, I was thinking to myself, I started writing a book way back in 2000, and I didn't have content. Go figure. I was only 18, right? Or 17, right? Just about there. And it took me the next 23 years to be here today to actually have built content in helping others pursue excellence, I think I've done it exponentially, not by just simply looking to help myself. However, it has helped me by attempting to help others. The beauty of what has occurred as a result of helping others in my life. Like I can talk for millions of hours on the topic if I had the lifespan, right? But like the work that we're creating now, I think comes from a place of grace. I've attempted to coach people and just drum in what I see is the challenge, realizing that grace brings more value to the person's life than me simply identifying what the challenge is. And then when they make the decision based on what they believe, then they have something they have for their life.
Have you at this stage received any feedback from, beta readers, so people you've sent the book to say, hey, what do you think? I noticed that you didn't send us a copy. I just
I was thinking about that this morning. I was like,
it's just the International Post. You talk about cheap, but anyway, no, seriously though. I mean, people would have.
I'm glad that you said that. Like I thought of you guys this morning, and I was like, all right, so I need to get this. Amazon.uk is a thing, so you'll definitely get this. And I'll let Amanda take it.
Like, one of the things we did in the writing process was, the first thing was Engel's style of writing and mine. It would be different.
Yeah.
So we had to find in the neutral ground, where both styles meshed and, gave the story in the best light. So after doing that, and we finished the manuscript, we sent it to a circle of readers, people who, we were very strategic in choosing out based on relationship, based on their profession in terms of education and just their avidness to read. Yeah. And after we did that inner circle reading, the review that we got, and most of them, they did a bit of self-reflection. And I think that is one of the goals that we wanted to achieve. We wanted the reader to, think of a time in their life where they may have experienced something of, similar nature that prompted them to, reflect on that choice, reflect on the consequences, just the pointers we had in the book. And they gave us, they brought the question to us, and we were able to have that conversation.
There's one question that someone asked that still bugs me, right? It was a young lady, she's a teacher, and she said, Amanda, did you choose Engel or did Engel choose you? And that was interesting, right? Because Amanda said, I didn't really pay him 2 minds when I saw him the first time, right? And she said, me too. Like when I saw my husband the first time, I didn't. And she said, I think women, when they see, like they are usually on their path. And then she stopped, and it's the one thing that still bugs me, because to me, I knew Amanda was the person, right? And I needed to convince her or convert her, if you would, to what I believe. So
that's really interesting, because I mean, we can all reflect on that particular question. What an astute observation. I mean, your circle of friends were clearly great choices, but actually, I wonder how many of them represent your ideal audience.
That's good. That's a good question. So I think they do represent our ideal audience, because what we're tapping into are families. So we touch the teenagers to see if, like, I just want you to see the color of what goes on in these books. It's not just a book that's written, like, it's tremendously colorful in here, right? It's really designed for what I've realized, older people really don't like to read just as much as younger people. And if they can get the help, the colors, the graphics in there, it helps.
Yeah.
So the older person may buy the book saying it's for their grandchild or teenage daughter or son, but they really want to read it as well, right? So I think it's what I want, what we want is that this book sits as a conversational starter, which is
Right.
an extension of what we do as podcasters. You listen to the conversation, your life is changed, and then you continue the conversation. So that is what, so hopefully, I believe we have targeted the right audience in terms of families.
Families. So, sorry, Kevin, I know you were going to ask a question, but the families, are they?
You even give Kevin an opportunity to answer.
Oh, he does sometimes. He does sometimes. It can not be hard with Graham to get a word in edgeways because he goes into this flow. But never mind. Carry on, Graham.
No, I was just going to say, was it a global family audience? I mean, are they from all continents, all?
Yeah, very, very good question. Yeah, we did share to some people outside of the Caribbean, and then I'm being very clear. My target audience would be the Caribbean audience.
Got you. Understand.
Because, of course,
well, Caribbeans who've come to, say, South London, for instance, or are they or are they still domiciled in the West Indies?
You finished my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I do that for Kevin.
Yeah.
Good.
I might as well do this damn podcast on my own. But no, I couldn't possibly do that. Keeps me straight and straight with a church clock. That's what he does. So, sorry, expats as well.
Yeah, we're definitely targeting the Caribbean diaspora across the globe because there are things in there that would resonate with them, right? For example, we say in Trinidad, when you're going online, and someone could wonder, well, what do you mean by going online? But line means to go to chill, to hang out, to go have fun. So a simple thing like that is definitely for the Caribbean audience.
Yeah, I thought you meant something to do with the internet. I mean, going online. But no, going online.
Going to line, LIME.
No, I get it. Yeah.
What happened is tourists came to Trinidad and apparently they realized that if they put lime on their skin, that it could keep the bugs away, the sandflies when they were on the beach. So they started saying they're going liming, right? So that's where it came from.
Wow. I have a glass of water with lime in every morning, but if I risked it today in my walk. Because I go next to a canal and there's a lot of, they love my blood because it's too much sugar in it. So basically I get loads of bites. So I don't know whether or not it's great news for them. I have this lime juice and then they see me come along on the canal. It's like, get him. And it's, you come back with, so I don't often wear shorts, but I did today. I risked it and I managed to get round.
You should try liming.
So you've got a very clear audience that this book's aimed at. How are you going about then marketing to that audience? I can see that you're in the Caribbean, therefore you've got the right people around you. But then take that expat population. How are you marketing to those?
Mm-hmm. The first thing we're doing is launching this book, and it's going to be on my 40th birthday. On the 17th of August, and it's us really giving back again. When I thought I couldn't give any more, we are giving again. And it's in this event where we brought the book to life by a theater company here, Splinters for Education, where they're actually going to put this on a stage, on a theater stage.
Wow.
And again,
this is a trend, Engel. I don't know if you heard the podcast that we did with Lizzie Marshall, and Lizzie is a poet and an artist, and we had I thought an interesting conversation about how what she was doing is saying, well, I'm writing this poem and it's inspiring this art. And I'm thinking, how?
Yeah.
How would you know if I'd read her poem that was represented by the imagery? And now what you're doing is a similar sort of thing, isn't it, in a way? Because you've got this book and you've got this theatre company that's almost like acting the book out, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know whether it's consistent with the book?
Yeah. Well, again, I think choices and consequences, results and intentions come into play. This is the third time this company is actually doing the production of one of our books. So Amanda launched 2 books previously, and she did that.
Yeah.
She actually went to school with me. She was older than me, but because of my gregarious personality, I knew everyone in the school, right? But I mean, she's there and she is doing that. We wrote it for it to be literary, but we kept in mind that we would want this to become somewhat of a movie at some point.
Yeah.
But as you said, even the people who did the graphical display of what our words represented is us giving our work and allowing a person to use their talent to showcase what we've done. And that's worked pretty well thus far. It's a gift to yourself as well, right? Because it's like I attempted to learn InDesign and or Photoshop and do the thing that I felt would be the best for the product. However, I've really learned that giving the professionals the thing actually carries it to another level.
Yeah, very good point. I was just thinking about your film and whether you could actually squeeze a sort of a walk-on part for Kevin Appleby. I mean, it would be awesome,
Mm-hmm.
This is what you could have been, and, as a consequence of or if you do this, then you'll end up like Kevin Appleby. I mean, that'd resonate throughout the world. Maybe not, I don't know.
Kevin and Amanda share a similar personality. You and I share a similar personality. I've learned the value, as you as well, in terms of this personality that Amanda has and the value it brings in terms of their ability to listen. They get away with the gold of the conversation, right? They sit back and they're marinating in the good stuff, right?
You're like laser focused on somebody's personality here. I'm feeling quite embarrassed, but you are absolutely spot on.
Nope.
But yeah, in fact, I've got a cap like yours as well, so I should have worn it for today. So, yeah.
So,
Kevin?
Engel, great. Love that idea of taking the book into stage production, but that works locally for you. How do you sell that book in, say, Graham mentioned South London?
That's a good question. So we'll definitely use the audience that are viewing what we're doing to then expand into other networks, as well as the podcast and the guests that I've had. I'll use that as an opportunity to share and let people understand what we're doing. I've had like 1,000 podcasters on our podcast. And, I think asking for the opportunity to share their audience with our audience, it's something that I intend to do as part of the marketing strategy next. We'll also visit places. Everything we do starts with us and then family and then friends. And then it expands into friends of friends, which again carries that Caribbean theme, right? Of the village. So that's how word of mouth is going to be the thing. I mean, word of mouth, and I'm thinking about doing the postcard and sending it out. Graham, ringing any bells here?
Every day I'm doing several of those for people, and it's often you almost have to persuade them because it's a bit. I thought that had passed us by. Who looks at postcards anymore? The fact is they do.
Graham's been doing some clever things like that lately. They've just changed all the stamps in the UK.
Yeah.
So all of the old stamps
Yeah.
have gone to be effectively useless. So just before they went useless, Graham discovered he had a load of them. So what does Graham do? He sends out a letter, sellotapes on the letter a penny, and says,
Sorry,
a penny.
I don't have an answer for that.
Is that you, Kevin?
That was her in the speaker.
So what you're really saying is you're telling a story about this postcard and your computer doesn't have an answer for it because it's so brilliant.
Yes.
But you are right, and Kevin's right. We use these cards, and on the back of it, we just put a penny piece with some white tack. Why is white tack way better than blue tack? I want to know that. I just don't know. Have you tried?
One of the great mysteries of life.
Honestly, I've just I don't know where it is now, but I've just ordered 2 packs.
Equal in status, Graham, to why the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42.
Well, I know, but I mean, it must be more sticky in some way. I can never figure it out, but it worked anyway. So I stuck these pennies on, and people have actually been getting in touch saying, hey, "I'm quite interested in this. Tell us more." So. With you, I was interested. I was on my walk today, and I was listening to something, an old recording of Dan Kennedy, who's a well-renowned marketer. And one of the things that he was talking to somebody else about was the launching. Do you remember the George Foreman grill? You might even have one. I mean, and there was a juicer called Juice Man or something like that. Anyway, the thing is, they all started really small. And imagine in your area, everybody knows you, and you get a number of sales locally. And then what they did is exactly what you're planning to do, which is almost like do a PR, effectively then have ways of bringing their interested party back to you. And that's the thing that you haven't said yet. But imagine that you had some sort of landing page that you could capture people's interest and then basically make sure that they get a copy or do something else that's going to be linked to your books. But the beauty of it is that the PR element of it, they got themselves on TV, and I want to imagine this. It would be a walk in the park for you to get onto TV with this. I would imagine that, and I'd wear this. I'd leave your costume to Amanda. I mean, and I would if you both went on TV, I think you'd get thousands of people interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, you're very correct. And it is the intention. We've actually not decided to go on TV before the book launch. So we've tested how many people we've impacted locally by simply, like, we didn't even print a flyer for the event. Yeah. We did a few ads on Facebook, and we've been tapping into the people we know. And if we're able to fill that venue with 700 people in there, then we go into the PR mode, which is the television stations. But I believe that helps what we're doing build momentum more than doing it the other way, where it's similar to the postcard and then the follow-up, right?
Yeah,
it's
very much.
Yeah, so it's been strategic. And again, I have all of this knowledge based on people that I've been having conversations with. But more than anything else, one of the realities that we live in is that our lives are our content. So we aren't representing something that isn't true. Like we are a true couple. Amanda taps me over the head ever so often, right?
Hence the cap. Hence the cap.
Hence the cap.
That's hiding the great big
so damaged your head
last night from the frying pan.
Yeah.
Or the rolling pin.
Yeah, no, we don't promote violence on this show. But no. But we'll make an exception for you, Engel. Go on, have a go at him, Amanda. No, seriously, I genuinely, I've said it before, I love your outfits. Honestly, you are visually a very attractive couple, and I think the point is, I think that's made for TV, made for PR. Yeah. So I do think that's going to be a very fundamental part of how you can make your story go viral. This social media word, isn't it? But basically, for many more people to get to know about it. Is it a Christian message that you're putting forward?
Well, that's a good question. we've actually had to be very intentional about it not being a Christian message. However, there's no way that we don't come full circle to we are Christians, because it's our life story. I think, when we did the road trip across US and Canada, there was this 14-hour drive that I looked at from Calgary to BC, and it was scary. All the while, it was the thing I was most scared by. And when we got there, BC and the mountains was such of a testament to the fact that there is a God, that I did not feel the time the way I thought I would feel the time. And I think this book has in it that element where we aren't, we don't hold cards up saying we are Christians and this is because of God in the book, but it's going to speak hopefully in that parallel manner where again, hopefully that's the hope, right? That you'll understand if you dive deeper and you ask us, what's really the power behind what you're doing. It's God, it's our relationship with God, and I don't know.
But they're not plucked from the Bible, and the Bible's just a kind of a backdrop that's informed the way in which you live. But these are sort of life lessons that you've come across and you've picked up from other people that maybe might well be in the Bible, but basically you're synthesizing it for people in a way that is accessible, aren't you? I mean, the pictures that you had in the book, I mean, presumably you could get through that quite quickly. I mean, have you had a speed reading element to that'd be fantastic. Speed dating, Kevin. I know you haven't done that for a few years, but basically, I don't know. Did they do speed dating in 1980?
I don't think it's been invented back in 1980, whatever it was.
No. Imagine that. I mean, you and I having speed date. We're going into this. Ruth and Dawn won't bother. They won't mind, because they'll be like talking to each other, saying they're not going to get anybody. Nobody's going to be interested in them too anyway. And doing these speed dating things. The only thing that I want to get across with that idea is that if I was to read your book, do you reckon I could do it in about 2 or 3 hours or something like that?
I think 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So what we did is we were on a tour. We were on a bus ride to one side of the country to the other, and our friend's daughter was there, and we gave her it on the iPad to read. And all the way through, I'm saying, hey, if you're bored at any point, please just put the thing down, right? You don't have to read it because we're right next to you. And I'm looking at her, and she's all enthralled, and the only reason she stopped was to ask questions, right? She wanted to get the end of the story. She was really, and she's 17 years old, and she was really
She was engrossed in the story.
She was engrossed. So we've been testing, my friend. We will not stop testing. And
15 minutes though, you can because I mean,
but isn't the thing here that it's not the story that's the important thing. It's those bits of thinking that you're triggering in the person's brain that's the important thing. So you want to get them into the self-reflection, etc.
Yeah, you're correct. So here's what we're doing. The first book is going to be released, and then we're creating sessions, group sessions with individuals where we're running through the journal, which, my friends, are another level of deep conversations. So the questions that we're asking in the group sessions, which we've realized help tremendously for the truth to come through to a person. Because what we found is conversation set the atmosphere for someone to listen to themselves. When we are in this group here, this small group speaking, there are things I'm hearing about myself internally, while Kevin's hearing things about himself, while Graham seems to be hearing nothing, right? So it's this format. that we found is just a great atmosphere that is very, very important for us to continue going, right? On. And we're creating that. We're creating that, my friend. The questions, like they're questions that go far past what we did on the podcast, right? But again, under the group setting, it's beautiful. So the journal sits as accompaniment to it, but more than anything else, having the people there and having different ages in the groups, and hopefully it's like the 12-step program, right? Get them in there and it changes your life.
It's been sorry, Kevin.
Those groups, Engel, you've talked about your target market. It's Caribbeans, it's expat Caribbeans. How would say somehow either myself or Graham joined one of those groups? Would we feel really out of place there, or do you think we'd fit in?
No, the Caribbean people, the diaspora is so warm in terms of how we welcome people. We've tested it. We've tested with international North Americans as well, right? And it's worked. It felt as though they found what we were doing was so refreshing from what they've been experiencing in the personal development space. For example, Graham just loves the fact that we're in color and we're dressed the way we are. And it's just these minor little tweaks that we're bringing to all your senses. It's the opportunity to hear a voice that you have to listen to if you're intentional, right? So you have to listen to our accents to understand us. That brings value. We're talking about you. We're bringing value to you. Our intention is not to bring value to ourselves. And of course, there's the eyes, right? You're seeing. And then there's the final topper, which is to get to the warm weather in the Caribbean, right? Like, why would you all have to live in this coldness? Like, you all have already been to hell, right? Like, come to the Caribbean, come to heaven and meet with us and stay over, right? And get good food. Not that your food isn't great, but our food is good, right? So come get good food as well. I hope I'm not coming over as cocky, right? I'm just very proud of the Caribbean.
You are, but we like it. We like you for that, and Amanda will probably have a word with you later, so don't worry about that. But seriously though, you've both been brilliant. In your case, returning guests, and Amanda, a guest for the first time on the Next 100 Days podcast, and we want to thank you for being brilliant guests on this podcast, and we want to wish you all the very best with your books as they come out to the market.
Thank you.
Right. What an interesting conversation. Covered so many things there. Covered the personal development process that Engel and Amanda are taking their readers through.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered the audience that it's meant for, and talked about the demographic and how, unlike, say, the UK or the US world, there's not quite so much in the personal development space there, and they've got a real mission to bring that to the Caribbean folk, which is brilliant. And then we've gone into specifically, how do you market that sort of book? Oh, we covered a lot.
We did, and I think there's a lot of depth in their approach as well. It sounded like they got so many books, even in the first book, they've almost had to cram things into a small space, but they're leaving themselves enough headroom to do 11 more books in the series. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how they develop. But the nice thing is you can read it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of graphical and design, and you could see when Engel actually just went through the book very briefly, it was lots of color, wasn't it? It was color and design, but still words, and that came across. What was interesting is the teenager was basically watching it on a or looking at it, reading it on an iPad. it's not like you can flip to the end as really easily, especially when somebody's watching you doing it. But basically, what for me, I think maybe they will impact people. Maybe they will. It's the way in which they've done it that might just
will
connect.
impact people, Graham. They're on a mission to impact people,
and they will, because
what you would say about Angel and Amanda is that flip to that final set of 3 books. Why am I here? They know why they're here.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we are still trying to figure out why we're here, Kevin. So on that point,
Well, you might be.
Well, I know that's true. I've been Graham Arrowsmith.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.